Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back in the Red Room, Virus Bulletin. We will continue the program here with a presentation. But before we continue, I know that, like me, you use cell phones and you make calls when there's a break. So please put them back to silent so we don't interrupt the speakers. Thank you. We have 3 presentations, so this is 1.5 hours in total. And the first one is about the Cerber malware, Cerber ransomware, 9 circles of Cerber by Eshed and Yaniv Balmas from Checkpoint Software Technologies. Gentlemen.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for attending our talk. Our talk is titled, as you can see, 9 circuits of Cerber, or the rise and fall of a decryption service. So first of all, introduce ourselves. My name is Yaniv Balmas, and I lead the security research for Checkpoint Software Technologies. With me here on stage is Eshed, which is a lead cyber threat analyst, threat intelligence analyst, also working for Checkpoint. And a short disclaimer is that this research was submitted to VB and should have also been presented by Stanislav Skuratovich, which unfortunately couldn't be here, so I'm just a mere humble replacement for him. All the credit on this work is all deserved to him. And now, in case you don't know or not familiar with it, Checkpoint somewhere during last year have published a decryption service for Cerber. It was online, it was there for quite some time. We'll tell you more about it soon. But the thing is that we actually never published the technical details behind it and never said how did we do it. There were a lot of speculations in the internet and in the community, like something saying that we stole the global private key of Cerber, or maybe we broke the encryption. Some of them are more true than others, but none are actually correct. And we figured that VB would be the perfect stage for us to reveal the technical details for the first time. It's no longer relevant, but still the story behind it, I guess, is pretty interesting. So that's our talk, and let's begin.
Thank you very much. Good day, everyone. Thanks for attending. Let's start with Cerber, the malware, the ransomware, and our motivation to address the problems it created. So Cerber emerged last year in around late February. With numerous infections. It's active since then and until today. It's one of the most prominent ransomware out there in the wild, both in infection-wise and with its capabilities. It's very unique in the term that it is the first fully successive and successful ransomware-as-a-service in the wild. Since its appearance, it had 7 different versions. The last one emerged just a few weeks ago. Always developing. The latest version has a crypto wallets, thievery, and info stealing capabilities, and so on and so on. We'll focus today on the first version in which we addressed and provided the solution for. So Cerber is unique mostly because of its business model, being an affiliate program, a ransomware-as-a-service. These 2 commercials are in Russian and English, addressing threat actors to join the party, the ransomware party, a new solution to monetize your downloads. It urges threat actors to join and to be a part of this ransomware activity. The advertisement continues with the encryption scheme using Cerber. The author is describing how the malware works, the specific encryption process and decryption, providing a full technical overview, showing that this is a robust model that's supposed to be very profitable with an automated payment and a management system. So he advertised this malware in order to attract affiliates. By the way, today, it's the opposite. He no longer attracts them. It's a seller's market. Now it's fully booked. But back then he wanted to have as many affiliates as much because he dreamt big. He wanted to be very widespread. So the affiliates program goes like this. Each affiliate distributes the payload and keeps 60% of the profits. The profits are generated by the victims who pay. And it goes 40% to him, 60% to them, to the affiliates. Also, another 5% referral rate for recruiting new participants. In this term, Cerber is like the McDonald's of Underworld. Affiliates are getting a mature product in which they just have to run, hit and play, and enjoy the profits. And it creates a very unique situation for both sides. The author is on the right. He has no distribution efforts, which is also very good in OPSEC terms. And it helps him focus on design and code, the stuff that he does very well, because he made a very successful ransomware. Now we can focus on how it's built and how it's being developed, even having less partners in the core of the system. Also, he runs the revenue sharing. He says what happens. He decides how the money is split between everyone. On the left, we have the affiliates. They distribute the malware, and once it's distributed, all they have to do is to wait to see who pays and get their money. Zero management. This means that they don't have to have technical skills. Of course, some of them are probably skilled and threat actors as well, but this allows people with bad motivations to join the ransomware party. Back then, it was very hype to join this activity without having to know how to create a malware, top-tier malware. And this works very, very well for both sides, and I think that this is a very successful operation. In another term, it's not just as a service like a malware-as-a-service. A malware-as-a-service is like being a notorious software developer. This guy is an entrepreneur. He created a new business model, and this is one of the major reasons we were focused on providing an answer for that. So in his advertisement, he showed that between 0.5% to 3% of victims pay, which is a bit higher than it really is, with an average payment of $500. Back then, it was 1 Bitcoin, approximately. So if he didn't cash out or they didn't cash out, they would be extremely rich by now. Of course, he didn't lose any motivation because of that. He's still active and creating a lot of money. And he also said that the top countries to pay are Australia, Canada, Great Britain, and the United States, which is also giving the smell of a successful business running in the Western world where there is money, showing a lot of understanding how to attract affiliates. In his advertisement, he even gives examples of successful campaigns because he wants to track the affiliates as much as possible. So we have examples of 2 campaigns lasting for about a month each, harvesting $30-something to $50-something thousand each. So take the point of view of the affiliate for a second. He pays $1,000, $2,000 a month to have a license for an exploit kit creating landing pages. He distributes the money, the malware, and he gets the money after that in 20 times higher sums. So this is a very good business for everyone, giving us a high motivation to try and address this and provide a solution. So we started digging deeper.
Thanks, Or. So at this stage, at least from research perspective, we are engaged in a fully fledged research project into Cerber, looking into many, many points in it and trying to figure out a lot of things. But I guess the most important one, and actually my personal favorite, I mean, the most important one in my eyes, is to try and figure out some kind of a solution to help users decrypt the server encrypted files. So obviously, in order to do that, we need to first dig in and understand the exact Cerber encryption scheme and how does it actually work. So that's why we prepared this Cerber encryption for dummies. It's not complete, but it shows you the picture and all the important parts in it. So what happens when you get infected with Cerber? Well, first of all, you get the sample, the Cerber executable onto your system. It contains, of course, all the logic and everything, but most importantly for the encryption scheme is that it contains the RSA master public key in it, embedded in it inside the configuration block inside of Cerber. And this is, of course, just 1/2 of the RSA key pair. The other half of it is the so-called golden key, the RSA master private key, and it's the sole property of the Cerber author. It must be, because otherwise this encryption scheme doesn't is not really good. So when Cerber starts, is activated on your computer, on the victim's computer, when it starts running, then obviously the first thing it does, it starts to extract files from the system, and he extracts them from everywhere, from local drives, from network drives, from removable drives. Basically, wherever he can find files from, he takes them, and he extracts them one by one. So let's take a look at this file, file X as an example. He takes it, and now he wants to encrypt this file. So in order to do that, he uses a PRNG embedded again inside the sample itself. PRNG, pseudo random number generator. Doesn't really matter what it is. The thing to note here is that this thing is used to generate some extra keys needed for the encryption scheme. And the first set of keys that is generated is another set of RSA keys, a public and a private key, but this time it's a local set, okay? So there's one of these key pairs is generated per victim, per host, actually. So each host has its own set of RSA keys, right? And then the second thing that's being generated, and that's actually being generated per file, is another key, a symmetric key this time, and it's an RC4 key, and it corresponds to each file. So file X has its own RC4X key, and file Y will have RC4Y key, and so on and so on. And that's it. That's all the keys in this game. And what happens now is that Cerber splits the file into sections. It does this based on file size and stuff like that, but it's not really important. The important thing to understand that it's various sections per file, and then each of these sections is being encrypted using the RC4 key, right? So we have like 3 sections, each of them encrypted with RC4, and that's it. Now the file is encrypted, right? We can see its contents, but we only need the RC4 key to open it. So obviously the RC4 key is taken and then encrypted using the local RSA public key pair, and the product of this encryption is just appended to the end of the file. Right? At this point, we only need the RSA key pair in order to reverse the process. So again, obviously, the RSA master public key is taken, and it encrypts our local RSA key pair. And again, the product of this encryption is appended to the end of the file. So now everything is deleted from disk, from memory. We have no more of these original keys generated, and we are left with an encrypted file with 2 encrypted keys at the end of it. Right? We have nothing to do. We can't open it. And that's the encryption scheme. Now, if you understood this, then decryption should be trivial because it's just the same, only in reverse. But just to make it clear, Cerber has his server out there in the internet somewhere, hidden behind the Tor network. So we don't know anything about it. We can't figure out where it is. But we do know that this, like Cerber cloud thing, contains the RSA master private key, the so-called golden key used to decrypt everything. And the process needed to decrypt this is just to send this encrypted RSA key pair, the local one, to be decrypted by the master private key in the cloud. And then the RSA local private key, again, just one of these per each victim, is being sent back to the victim. And now it's being used to decrypt each of the RC4 keys. And now that we have the RC4 key, it's not a problem. We can just decrypt the files, same thing, just backwards, and we have our original file. Everything is good. File is restored, and that's actually perfect. So during the past, I guess, few years, I've had the opportunity to take a look at quite a few encryption algorithms of ransomware and not ransomware and stuff like that. And I can say personally that, first of all, the crypto logic inside this thing is perfect. There is no flaw there. Everything is good. There is no way to break it. And actually, I think this is one of my favorite encryption schemes because it has quite a few nice properties. Like, for example, the Cerber authors offer like, we'll open one file for you just to showcase that we can open it. And all he needs to do in order to do that is just to get one encrypted file. He already has all the keys in there, so it's not a problem. He can just do it and send you back your decrypted file. Say, hey, look, I can do it. Now give me the money. So it's very nice and completely unbreakable in my mind.
So basically what Yaniv says is, stop, you wasted my time. This is very solid, very robust. No point into digging further inside. So should we give up? Should we leave this untouched? So we didn't want to leave it. We wanted to dig further. We remember that Cerber is not only an encryption-decryption process, it's also a new kind of dark operation, a new kind of business model, and maybe we'll find, if we zoom out, we'll find the answer located somewhere else. So we already know how life looks like for the affiliates and the author. Let's try and follow the experience of a victim. So we have this guy. You can see he's sad by his sad face. Why is he sad? Because he was infected with Cerber. All his files are now encrypted, and he's devastated. And he wants to see what's required in order to retrieve them. He enters the link inside the ransom note. He enters this portal. This is the real portal of Cerber. urging him to pay in order to get the key, in order to restore all his files, and to answer his own problem. This portal now splits it. There is a crossroad. It leads into two different locations, logically. First of all is a Bitcoin wallet generated specifically for this victim in order to pay, because the payment is necessary. If he pays and doesn't get the files back, then he has no motivation. If he doesn't pay and get the files, then the author has no motivation. So this is very much required. Another thing is the download of the decryptor of Cerber, which is a general or generic executable. It doesn't necessarily have to download it from this portal. It's the same decryptor for all victims. And now, after this crossroad, when one side is responsible for the money and the other one is responsible for the decryption, there must be some kind of connection between the two. But what is the connection? And maybe there we'll find something interesting.
Yeah, so the question that all raises is actually, I guess, the biggest question. It's the missing link here, because there must be some kind of connection between the payment and the actual decryption scheme, because otherwise, how does this thing work? There must be something. So I guess at this point of time, this was our main mission, trying to find out this missing link, what it is, and how is it actually being done by Cerber. And in order to do that, naturally, the first thing to look at is this portal that Or mentioned before. This is the portal that you get the link to once you get infected. And there's actually two interesting pieces of information in here. They are here in very small text. But if we'll take a closer look at them, then you'll see that at least one of them is very obvious, and that's the bottom one, because that's just a Bitcoin wallet. It's a unique Bitcoin wallet. So a unique Bitcoin wallet is generated on a per victim basis, right? That makes sense, and we see that in a lot of ransomware. Not all of them, but a lot of them. That's easy. But what is the top one? So we see that if we run this on different hosts, we get a different ID there, so-called ID. So we kind of guess that this is like something like a unique victim ID. It must be a unique victim ID. But how is this unique victim ID connected to the Bitcoin wallet? We still don't know, and we try to look this up by reversing the decryptor application, and we find out that the answer is pretty simple. This unique victim ID is the product of the same RSA local keys that we saw before, right? Some kind of product, some kind of processing of this, and actually that's pretty much what we were looking for, because you see, this thing is now directly connected to the Bitcoin wallet on one hand, and on the other hand, each and every encrypted file has this key pair encrypted though, but it is there at the end of the file. So we can directly draw a line between each file and the unique Bitcoin wallet. So that's what enables the Cerber author to actually validate that you or the victim paid the money. He takes the keys, he takes a look at the Bitcoin wallet corresponding to them. If there's money there, then everything is okay, right? So that's the thing. And now if we take, again, a step back and take a look at the entire process, it makes much more sense right now. You see, the decryptor application, as Or said, is just a stupid application. It contains no special logic in it. What all it does, it just picks up a random encrypted file from the system, takes out the keys from it, and sends it to the cloud, right? And if everything checks out, then you're getting back your private key, and you can do all this decryption process that I told you. And this thing is actually done simply over HTTP. This is the request being sent by the decryptor application, right? An interesting thing to note here that the decryptor is not limited to one request per host. It actually can send as many requests as you want. That's how it was designed. And the request is split into three major sections. So there is a CAPTCHA, which I don't have anything to say about. It's just a CAPTCHA. And then there's the unique ID, the same unique ID that we saw on the top of the portal. And then the final parameter is just the encrypted keys, right? So that's all that's being sent to the server side. And what happens on the server side? Obviously, we can't tell because it's on the server side. But now that we know all this process, we can pretty much speculate what's the algorithm required in order to do this. So first thing that needs to be done, the CAPTCHA needs to be validated, of course. That's OK. And then the unique ID has to be verified and to see that the corresponding wallet actually has the money that's supposed to be there. And the third thing that should be done is to check that the encrypted key actually belongs to the same victim whose unique ID this is, right? That's pretty much it. If I would develop it, that's the checks that I would do. And okay, it looks trivial to us, but still, you know, we're kind of playing around with the idea and saying, okay, let's try to check them one by one. So validating the CAPTCHA is easy. We just send the raw CAPTCHA and get nothing back. And checking the unique ID again is easy. We just fabricate some kind of unique ID and, again, get nothing back. But then encrypted key. So how can we check the encrypted key? So we were just, you know, laughing between ourselves and thinking, okay, so what will happen if I will send a request with a valid unique ID of somebody who actually paid the money, but I will send the keys from a totally different victim, just someone else who didn't pay even $1 single to this guy. What will happen? And we're saying, no chance, of course. I mean, it will be checked and we will get nothing back. But guess what? No, yes, we got valid keys back. So this guy forgot a simple validation check on the third thing. So this actually means that by taking a valid unique ID once, we can decrypt everybody's file. So it's a decryption party that we can now do. And that's very cool. That's a very, I would say, stupid bug or a very minor bug, but still it's a very fatal bug, and this completely ruins the entire business process of the Cerber guy. And that's a great win for us, I guess. We can now make this decryption application and just start opening everybody's files due to this simple mistake.
Thanks, Yaniv. So actually, the author created an option for family subscription to the decryption service unknowingly. And as Yaniv said, it's a very minor bug, but it's a very important bug. Got these in the details, and this is enough for us to provide solution for everyone who was infected by that version of Cerber. So we wanted to provide a solution somehow to victims, and we had a dilemma. Because this is a very minor flaw, once the author finds out about it, he will fix it it will be in terms of minutes, maybe hours until it's done, and then we're in real problem, and the guy, he will find it because this is his malware, he coded it, and he's not bad at programming at all. So once he understands that something is wrong, he'll deal with it. So we had two major options on how to deal with it. The first of all was creating an application, a standalone decryption tool downloadable from the internet for every victim, in which the appendix of the prepaid Bitcoin wallet of another victim will be attached to this victim ID, and that's how the victim will decrypt his files. But in this case, the author will download the tool himself and play with it, reverse it, and eventually you will find out the flaw very quickly. The other one was to create a web decryptor, web-based application. You remember in the part discussing the decryption, the communication is with infected files, with encrypted files, because they all have the keys in them appended in the end. So every victim can send an encrypted file and get back the decryption key from the portals. This is what we decided to do. And even in this case, it was obvious that eventually the threat actor will find out what we did and how we did it, and the door will be shut. And we wanted to get as much time as possible in order to help as many victims as possible. So this is why we chose this vector of activity. And we think that we did a very good job. We created this web portal, web-based application for decryption. It was running for 48 hours successfully, and we allowed thousands of victims to restore their files, and this is very successful. Eventually, the author found out about what we did. This is the decryptor of the Bitcoin wallet that already paid in the past and that we took a ride with. And eventually, he found it in his side, in the server side, after, I guess, digging for those 48 hours without any sleep. And he sent us this thanks fixed notification, even with a smiley. So by that time, it was done. Still, we were able to create a very large impact. We got very positive feedbacks from victims saying that it was very successful and they restored their files. And it's very important to remember, for us, we're from the industry, we know what ransomware is. It's very unpleasant. For people that don't know much about cybersecurity and they get into that position in the first place, because they don't understand the risk. Once it happens, It's very, very poor, and having their files restored, this is something very, very impressive, very enormous, saying that they are overwhelmed by the success. So we believe that we had a very much successful operation. So the summary, the ending point of this conversation. First of all, we realized that a solid encryption is not a game over in the process, and there's always something else to look for. In every threat operation, there is also always a weak link in the chain that we can look for, and it's always there. Second of all, it's about creativity in the work process. It's sometimes easier to break the decryptor rather than the decryption itself, and that was the case in this incident. Last but not the least, we were very proud of it. At the end of the day, we managed to save thousands of users and millions of files and a zillion of bits of encrypted information, and also to have a severe effect over the reputation of this malware and threat actor. And we believe that we did a very good job we're very proud of. So thank you very much for listening, and now we're open to questions.